Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a dynamic effort upper workout. So my variation for this 3-week wave has been a close grip bench press, and this week is the third week in the 3-week wave, so the heaviest of the weeks. So it's 85% of my 1 rep max. That's bar weight plus band tension for 3 sets of 5. So these move quite well. They were at the slowest bar speed. So over the 3-week wave, you try and maintain bar speed as good as you can, but obviously as the weight is getting heavier, it is hard to do that. It's almost frustrating watching it back because it looks like I'm sort of just coasting the weight up to lockout. I promise you, I was trying to slam that weight up to lockout as fast as I can and to try and be as explosive as I can, because that is the whole point of dynamic efforts. You're trying to help increase the rate at which you recruit your muscle fibers to gain some neurological adaptations around speed, which should help you have more speed off the chest in the bench press, or if it's squats and deadlifts, obviously in those movements. But that should help you slam through sticking points all the way up to lockout. And I do feel like since I've started doing dynamic effort work, it has definitely been a help. So this 3-week wave went as planned. It was still good. Bar speed, everything pretty much, not much to say about it other than it all went well. So moving on to the accessories, the first accessory here was rope tricep extensions. So I did a bit of a superset with these. I did 2 sets of 12 with the sort of standard rope tricep extensions like this on screen now. But then I find that I get fatigued with this way more. So because my arms are down by my side, you get a much more vicious contraction on the triceps. That's because the triceps don't just contract around the elbow joint. They're not just there to extend the elbows. They're also, if you bring your arms backwards in line with your body or even behind your body, you'll find that your tricep contracts way more. So that's why I feel like I can only do so many reps at that. So here was sets of 12. But then I like to lean forward, and because that triceps in a slightly less contracted position, even at lockout, it's more of a skull crusher. I feel like I can get extra reps and really pump up the triceps more. So that's what I was feeling there when I'm like shaking at the end of that second set. That was so like painful, not in a bad way, but as in there was a really vicious burn in the triceps after those supersets, because particularly doing the superset with that second variation leaning forward just allows me to burn out the triceps way more. And compared with doing sort of like a heavy set of 8 on skull crushers, when you do heavier sets, the limiting factor is more whether you can move the weight. Whereas as soon as you get into higher reps, in total I was doing sets of 22 there, you end up pumping up the triceps loads. It's more about your pain tolerance. So they went well. Then moving on to the next accessory here, it was dumbbell rows. So I used the 50 kilo dumbbells because they're the heaviest dumbbells I had, and I managed to get 2 sets of 20 with some pauses part way through. So on the first set, I think I paused after 10 reps and after like 15 reps. On the second set, I managed to power through to like 12 reps, and then I had to pause, and then I got up to 17 reps, took another pause, and then cranked out the last 3. So I really like doing that pausing method where you just stand on there. First of all, it keeps the tension on your back. It is still heavy in that static hold, particularly when you fatigued yourself from doing the dumbbell rows, but also it allows you to recuperate enough to help crank out more reps and really burn the back out. So yeah, they went well and felt very good, and definitely burnt the upper back, the traps in particular, out a lot. So the next accessory here was incline dumbbell press. So I did these at a 30-degree incline, which is a fairly high incline for me. Normally a low incline is like 15-degree, and most of my work is obviously flat because the bench press is flat in competition. But this 30-degree incline felt pretty good. I felt it a lot in the front of my delts and my upper pecs, which is to be expected. Now I like to flare my elbows out to the side a lot just because it feels like the best position for me. It also feels like I get more of a stretch on those upper pecs and delts. So I like the feeling of that, and it doesn't give me any shoulder pain. Some people find that if they flare the elbows out to the side, they get shoulder pain more. If that's the case, just tuck your elbows in a little bit more. But when I tuck my elbows, I find it becomes more of a compound press and I get my triceps involved more. For me, I prefer to, what I'm trying to do here, I've already done my tricep isolation exercise, those rope extensions. Here here I'm trying to target the chest and a little bit of the front delts. So I think I got 2 sets of 13 here with 40 kilos, which is pretty good for me considering this incline. And yeah, it was really hard to push through, and the last reps were grindy, but it felt really good, and it definitely hit, like I say, my upper pecs and my anterior delts. So moving on to the next accessory here, it is loo raises. So this is to target more of my lateral head of my delt, my side delt. So I went heavy at first with these 15 kilo loo raises. That's the heaviest I've ever gone on loo raises. I have done sets of 6 with them before, but here I was feeling fatigued. It is the 3rd week in my 3-week wave, the last week before my deload week, and I often feel more fatigued, particularly within my accessories. So I just got sets of 5 with the 15 kilos, supersetted with sets of 5 with the 10 kilo dumbbells, and I literally couldn't even get that last rep there, as you saw, and I think I failed it as well on the 2nd set. But these felt really good. I started introducing these a few months ago. I've talked about them a lot in other episodes because I absolutely love this exercise. There's something about going all the way up to the position where the dumbbells are over your head that I find so much more effective than regular lateral raises. I used to love lateral raises. They were like my favorite delt exercise, where I would pump up my side delts, the capped part of the delts, the most. But since trying loo raises, you just have to contract the delt way more to get it into that top position. Now you'll see that I'm leaning back a little bit just to help get the dumbbell up. That is because I would fail earlier, but I have done these with much lighter weights. I've done them with like 5 kilo dumbbells before, and I keep the form a bit stricter when I'm doing that, and every time it pumps up the delts, and my delt strength and my overhead pressing strength has absolutely blown up since I started doing those. So it's a great accessory if you're trying to work on your overhead strength in particular, but your pressing strength and your delt strength in general, I highly recommend you do loo raises. Then moving on to the penultimate accessory, I just decided to do standard alternating bicep curls with 20 kilo dumbbells. So these dumbbells are fairly light for me, to be honest. I felt like if I was fresh and primed, if this was like the 1st week back after a deload week, I'd probably be able to get sets of like 12 to 15 per arm. But here, I think I just managed to get a set of 10 per arm, so like 20 in total with the alternating. And then I cranked out a few hammer curls when I felt like I couldn't get any more regular alternating curls done. I just like to do that to help burn out the biceps a little more at the end. I mean, my natural instinct as well is to train to failure. When I was focusing more on aesthetic training and bodybuilding, you can train pretty much everything to failure once you condition to do it. By the way, don't jump in as a newbie and start trying to train everything to failure. But once you become used to training and pushing hard, in bodybuilding in particular, because you're not bothered by your strength, you just pick an appropriate weight, and then you're trying to grind out as much as possible and generally progressively overload over time. I've loved training to failure because of that. I find that I have to dial back a little bit. I spoke about this in the series a few months ago as well. I was training everything to failure on my accessories, and I felt like it was affecting my compound lifts for powerlifting. So now I'm putting most of my effort into dynamic effort or max efforts, the primary movement within each workout, and then I'm still pushing pretty hard on the accessories, and often I am feeling a burn. To be honest, I'm quite close to failure, but I used to do things like double drop sets where, like on the loo raises for instance, I could have dropped to 5 kilo dumbbells as well and cranked out more and more, and then supersetted it with like lateral raises with the 5 kilo dumbbells and just kept going until the delts had like absolutely nothing left and were sore for days. That's what I used to do, and I felt that that helped build a lot of muscle. But nowadays, instead, I'm trying to optimize my performance, and absolutely redlining on every accessory is not conducive for you to be able to perform optimally on your maxes and dynamic efforts, your main efforts. So the last accessory here is cable crunches, I like to use a belt like I'm showing because it removes arms and any other factors out of the way. But as you can see, I was levitating there. You're able to use a lot of weight when you do this variation with the belt because the belt is attaching around your torso. When you normally sort of like hold the weight with your hands around your neck, the moment arm is longer, so even though you're using a lighter weight, it feels heavier on the abs. So I have to use a heavier weight, and the hardest part is trying to ground myself. So I was showing there that I'd normally float, and if you want to try this variation, you have to have something like that roller that I'm using to hook my knees under. Otherwise, like this, you just get lifted up away. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of that great stuff, and I hope you have a great day.